take refuge in the Buddha, one bright mind, take refuge in the Dharma, the endless teachings. I take refuge in the imperfections of the Sangha and all that they have to teach us. Good evening again. We are continuing with a series of talks, and we'll be doing so for several more months, on the Mumonkan. Mumonkan, the Gateless Gate, one of the classic collections of koans put together by Master Mumon. And it has been used for well over 1,000 years to help refine people's understanding. And each of the koans, as I mentioned, is always based on the non-dual. It's based on non-separation. So to work with koans skillfully, we have to practice long enough so that the mind that is saying, I, me, and my, and that, and this, comes together so that our body and our mind are one thing. So that we're not something up in our head and we think our body is down there, but we really have the direct experience of the body-mind being one. And then, of course, the same is true with us and the environment. And some of the koans are very rich, and some of the koans are very straightforward. Of course, they all are rich, just like our lives are always rich. So today we're working on Mumonkan, case number 16. When the bell sounds, why do you put on your robes? Here's the koan. And the koan, this particular collection has 3 parts. There's a koan, a brief commentary, and a poem, all by Master Mumon. And they all are intertwined and kind of reflect the teachings of one another. So the koan is this. Unmon said, "Look, this world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your priest's robe at the sound of the bell?" Pretty straightforward. And of course, we have to translate that into our own lives. We can do anything we want to do. There's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 things we could do tonight. Well, why do we show up here? There is thousands of things to eat. Why are we eating that? So he's positing this to a group of monks, but it's basically about all of us. Why are we doing things? What's the essential reason? What's underneath that? We'll unfold that a little more as we go on. In Mumon's commentary. Now, in studying Zen and disciplining oneself in Zen, one must strictly avoid following sounds and clinging to forms. Even though one may be enlightened by hearing a sound or have one's mind clarified by seeing a form, this is just a matter of course. It's nothing to talk about either. If a Zen person is able to master sound and control forms, and thus can clearly see the reality of everything, and is wonderfully free in everything he does, though it may be so, you tell me, does the sound come to your ear, or does your ear go to the sound? Even if you are able to transcend both sound and silence, how do you speak of that fact? If you listen with your ear, you cannot truly get it. When you hear with your eye, then you can really get it. Mumon's point. If you understand it, all things are one. If you do not, they are different and separate. If you do not understand it, all things are one. If you do, they are different and separate. That's the whole case. Why, when the bell rings, you put on your robes? When the alarm rings, why do you get dressed? That's the essential koan. And it's a koan, obviously, that asks questions of each of us in our lives. This teacher, Unmon, that's the Japanese name, also known as Yunmin, in China, lived approximately in the 9th century. And he was a disciple of... So one of the things that you can do with koans is you can begin to help people understand a little bit about the lineage, about the great tradition that we all have all inherited. So each of us have inherited many, many lines of tradition. We've inherited lineages of genetics. We've inherited. So just think about that. The fact that we are here means 10,000 generations of couples had sex right at the right time. And we are the inheritors of all of that activity. If they had not, we wouldn't be here. Plus many other things. We're inheritors of lineages of education. All of us who have education of one degree or another, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It came because people studied certain material and passed it on and figured out pedagogical ways of presenting it. We learn different lineages of education. We have different lineages of culture. We have different lineage of our own decision making. This life, this body did not result. It's not arbitrary. It didn't just happen. It's not just a mistake. It is the result of a whole lineage of decisions that we have made over the course of our life. And of course, many, many, many others. So to appreciate lineage at any level, we have to have a very wide mind. And it's very helpful to have an awareness that's grounded in reality. It's grounded in reality. So we do Zazen. We do Zazen, and we really learn to appreciate this life and this body just as it is. Just right here is the culmination of 1,000, 10,000 generations of activity. This particular life. And we appreciate it, we begin to appreciate the vast lineages of behavior, activity, and intention that we are inheritors of. We also appreciate that this little life right here, which is the result of so many threads of activity and wisdom, has little to do with us. And so that can really lead to humility. On the other hand, when we appreciate this life is the culmination of 1,000, 10,000 streams of activity, of karma, of cause and effect, and we are the only person who can actually feel what our hand feels like, the only person who can actually speak the words that our mouth can speak, it gives rise to great confidence. So this particular teaching is about both humility and great confidence simultaneously, being able to hold it. And they're not just personality attributes. That is, I will now practice humility. I will now learn to be confident. But it's about as we actually see the nature of things, as we actually look into the nature of things, then this is the product, the result, because that is the way things are. So each koan is based on non-duality, and each koan has a test in it. Before I go on to that, let me just read a little bit about Yunmen. This is the story of Yunmen's enlightenment under his Zen master Muzo. When Muzo heard Yunmen coming, he closed the door to his room. Yunmen knocked on the door. Muzo said, "Who is it?" Yunmen said, "It's me." Muzo said, "What do you want?" Yunmen said, "I'm not clear about my life. I'd like the master to give me some instruction." Muzo then opened the door, taking a look at Yunmen, slammed it. Yunmen knocked on the door in this manner 3 days in a row. On the third day, when Muzo opened the door, Yunmen stuck his foot in the doorway. Muzo grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "Speak, speak." When Yunmen began to open his mouth to speak, Muzo gave a shout and said, "Too late." He slammed the door and he broke Yunmen's foot. And at that, you can imagine that intensity of the non-dual experience, complete kind of psychologically stunned and physically just completely brought into that present moment, he had a deep experience. It wasn't a complete experience, but it was a deep experience. There's lots of interesting stories about Yunmen. And if we take the time to go through some of the stories, you take the time to read some of the stories of the great masters that we are the inheritors of, it gives you a sense of, gives me a sense of awe. Of how fortunate I am to have even tasted a little bit this incredible richness of these teachings of all these thousands and thousands and thousands of practitioners who have done their best to realize their own nature. And of course, each one of them had to go through what we have to go through. Each one of them had to struggle with thought, each one of them had to struggle with sleepiness, each one of them had to struggle with motivation, each one of them had their own challenges like we do. And yet, the particular people who are the exemplars in our tradition met their challenges in their own inept way, their own skillful way, and managed to have some experience which they were able to inspire other people with. So in this particular koan, when the bell rings, why do you put on your robes? When the alarm sounds, why do you get dressed? The tricky point of it is why. Why? Now in our culture, sometimes when you look at the news, we're endlessly obsessed with this question, why? You know, why did it happen and who did it? And it can be an endless question, why? Why did we come here tonight? Well, we came here tonight because it was 7 o'clock, we came here tonight because we decided to, we came here tonight because we had a bad day at work, and we wanted to have some recreation, or we wanted to have some respite. We came here tonight because we have a history of interest in Dharma. We came here tonight because we read about a book in Buddhism when we were 16. We came here tonight because our parents fed us and helped us to grow into an adult. We came here tonight, and we look at the chain of causality, and it just goes out and out and out and out and out and out and out. Because each thing is predicated on several other things. Or so the fact that I have a particular gesture is not particularly spontaneous. It's the result of thousands of talks, and the way the particular DNA comes together, and the way that try to express something that is more than just the words. So each thing has one cause, two causes, three causes, four causes, and those causes are out in every single direction. This particular moment, if we look at it deeply, is the result of the entire cosmos. Our life right here, right now. Because it requires the entire isness of things for us to actually be right here. Not only did it require all those generations of couples having sex at the right time, but it also required all those people being able to earn a living, and all those people able to find enough food, and all those people to take care of us when we were infants, and take care of our predecessors when they were infants. It required all of them having some meaning in their life, and clothing, and food, and shelter. The requisites for all of that, of course, means the whole culture, means nature, means everything. So if we look at why in the sense of why did this happen to me? We have to answer, because. When I was a first student, Roshi Kapleau used to talk about a physician who came to Sesshin, and he was just talking with Roshi, and the doctor said, when I think about terrible things that have happened to me, I ask, what have I done to deserve these terrible things? And the answer always comes back, plenty. We have all been incredibly unskillful in our lives, and the result of that unskillfulness and the result of that good karma, the result of those good things, is this particular life. Now, why is not a meaningless question. The very fact that we have science begins with why. This is an Apple Pencil. And we'll write it on an iPad. And it is a high, high, high level of technology which is based upon somebody observing and figuring out the causal relationships between many different things. So why is not just a matter of, okay, let me rationally figure out, but let me inquire. Let me inquire, what is the direct experience? So science begins with observations, principles, posits mechanisms, test hypotheses. We do the same. We can do the same. In practice, we need to do the same. Why am I so deluded? Why am I suffering so much? Why am I in this endless box? The question why means, let me investigate and look directly at what is. What is? What is it? What isn't it? Why kind of implies the historical chain. But if you look at what is the direct experience right now? Where does this experience arise from? Where does the experience come from? Many times people will ask why, and then they close off the investigation of what by just some rational answer. Why were you born with a skin color? Well, because my parents' genetics. But that's a silly answer. It's a non-answer. The question is, what? What is the experience? What is the experience? What is the experience? So, why do we put on the robes when the bell rings? What is the experience that you have right at the moment when there's something that calls to you? What is the experience of something calling and you responding? Exactly what happens when there is a call and a response? Where does the call and the response start and end? This particular koan is not asking about some historical thread. It's about asking, what is the texture, the flavor, the instantaneous experience of our life, moment to moment to moment. That why is really saying basically, let's look really, really closely. Let's look really closely. So, if there's a sound when we hear it, what is the distance between that sound and our reaction to it? When the alarm clock rings and we tap it, what is the distance between those two things? What is the distance between a thought of, I am a hopeless, worthless being and feeling inadequate? What is the distance? And if you look more and more intimately, you'll see there's actually very little distance. There's a stimulus, we have a reaction to it, we have a reaction to that reaction, we have a reaction to that reaction. And before we know it, we're in a cycle of reactivity, and there's almost no space. There's no time, because they're happening so instantly and so immediately. Now, on an ordinary level, on ordinary minds, that's just our habitual reactivity. That's just our habitual old behavioral patterns, and we just keep going down over and over and over again. But the world is vast and wide. The world is infinite. We have the ability to hold the infinite in our own awareness. We have the ability to be aware of stars and suns and moons and dark and coughs and floors and echoes. We have the ability to be aware of this body breathing and all the people in this room. When we have that awareness, when our mind is in this non-dual awareness, this big awareness, this non-separated awareness, everything happens in that awareness. So this koan is not about, let me do things properly, the bell rings and it is proper to do da-da-da. It is not about the samadhi of engagement, because it is true that when we are practicing for a while, we have the ability to change directions according to circumstances very, very quickly. We have the ability to not lose our center when something unexpected happens. But this particular koan is about the oneness of cause and effect, the oneness of the universe and the oneness of my mind. That mind which is aware of the universe, and that mind which is aware of being aware of the universe, and that mind which is acting and moving and talking right here, right now. That's what this koan is pointing at. We could say, from one side, that we are the product of our times. We often say about great people, they're the product of their times. That is, their times to actually create them. We could say that about us, that we are not some hidden wolf inside here, but we are the whole field of our experience. And so the whole field of our experience gives rise to the decisions, to the choices we make. That's still one-sided. So the choices and the decisions that we make give rise to the whole field of our experience. For this koan, the world is vast and wide. The world is vast and wide, and it puts on our clothes. The world is vast and wide, we wake up in the morning. The whole world wakes up in the morning. The world is vast and wide. We are not separated from anything. It's about an inclusive state of mind, of Zazen. Not an exclusive state of mind, I'm here and you are all there, and not about, I've got to choose this versus that. It's about an inclusive state of mind. Everything is our life. You can't fall out of the universe. You can't be thrown out of the universe. You can't drop out of the universe. You can't fall out of awareness. Even becoming united in numbness, there's still an awareness there. The whole world is breathing us. The whole world is living our life. And the whole world, when it is living our life, is inherently creative and generous. Because the fact that we are alive moment to moment to moment is an act of creativity and generosity. There is no reason that we need to be alive. We will be alive in 5 minutes. Instead, each moment we are given the gift of our life, and it can be gone just like that. But each moment we're given the gift of our life. It is inherently generous. It is inherently kind. It is inherently loving. The essential nature of the universe, the creative foundation of the universe, is loving kindness. Our life. This is not a rational understanding. It's not something we figure out. It's something that when we are curious and we look at our movement, our activity, we watch ourselves getting dressed, we watch that happen. It can happen in the dark. It can happen with our eyes closed. It can happen even when we're sound asleep and don't know what we're doing. We can still get dressed. When we watch that process, we realize, there is something mysterious and magical and that is operating through me, through this life. And we can touch that and have a direct experience of that, and then of course it disappears because all experience disappears. And then we begin to operate on a kind of faith. A faith that we know this is the way things operate. We've experienced it, we've touched it, and therefore I will rest in that truth. And I'll have some faith that what actually unfolds from the universe's life and breath is important. It has to be engaged with, has to be appreciated. And then the intention of practice is to be engaged and attentive, and aligned in one's attention, aligned with what is. As an act of compassion, as an act of loving kindness. So this particular koan, everything is okay. Everything is okay.